Hey guys, this is Woodshop Junkies, and today I'm building a really cool and simple version of a 2-in-1 garden bench that can convert into a picnic table. In my previous shop talk video, I mentioned that I want to start sharing some of my projects that are not related to small shop improvements. So today I figured I'd start with a nice and simple one that I think most beginners will be able to manage with just a few basic tools and power tools. Now, the concept of a garden bench where the backrest can swing forward and double as a table is nothing new, but I wanted to redesign the concept to make a better looking bench while simplifying the build process. To limit power tool requirements, I designed my version of the bench using standard lumber sizes, and as a result, a couple of 2x4s and 2x8s is all that's needed to build this project. In fact, the wood I'm using was salvaged from a shipping crate, so they have a few screw holes here and there, but it shouldn't affect the project too badly. Now, because I'm using standard lumber sizes, it eliminates the need for a table saw, and all that's left is the ability to produce a crosscut. For this, I'm going to use my miter saw, but a cheap handheld circular saw would have worked just as well. To get started, I'm going to size up all the 2x4s, which are going to make up the bench and tabletop and various other small components. And for the most part, it's all straightforward 90-degree crosscuts. And that's it for all the cutting on the 2x4s. There's a couple of long ones for the bench and tabletop, a few shorter pieces for bracing or armrest, stuff like that. And as I said, very straightforward, with the exception of these three pieces that I added these 45 chamfers to the corners, but this is just for cosmetic reasons and will make more sense when I start assembling. Right, so next up is the bench sides, and this is where the 2x8s come in, and cutting them is going to be slightly more complicated than cutting the 2x4s because all the cuts are going to be angled cuts. Now, if I was making these cuts with a circular saw, I would have made up a simple little fence like this that I can clamp to each piece and use to guide my circular saw, and so ensure consistent cuts. Okay, so that's the 20 components sized up that I'm going to need to assemble each bench. There is 2 components outstanding, which I haven't really made my mind up about, which I will be getting to in a moment, but for now I'm going to clear the bench and pack out all the components so I can put a rundown of all the dimensions on the screen. Right, so now I've got all the components separated into two groups, the seat and the bench top or backrest. And I'm going to start by assembling the seat. I've got the seat, the sides, some bracing and the two armrests. Now, to ensure a uniform spacing between all the planks, I'm going to put in this piece of 1/4 inch or 6mm MDF, put it in, space the plank, drill it in place, and then I can take this out again. Right guys, so that's the first stage of the assembly pretty much complete. It's the 3 2x4s that form the seat fixed to the 3 2x4s that form the bracing. Now the only noteworthy feature of the first stage is the fact that the side braces are offset slightly to accommodate one of these sides, which I'm going to fix in place now. Right, so that's almost it for stage 2 of the project, but to complete it, I need to remove this segment over here. To do it, I'm going to use the already installed components to mark cut lines and then simply use a handsaw to remove it. Right, so that's pretty much it for stage 2 of this build. A little bit more complicated than stage 1 because I had to remove these corners, but there's a very good reason for it, which will make more sense when the entire unit is assembled. Next, I'm going to add the outer pieces of the bench and the armrest, which will pretty much complete the seat portion of the build. Right, so that's pretty much it for the seat, and as it stands I actually have a bench I can use, but that's not what this build is about. So next up I'm going to assemble the top slash backrest. Before I do, however, I'm going to router the edges on the armrest, which isn't really essential, but I think it'll look a bit nicer. Right, so these are the 2x4s that are going to be forming the top or the backrest of the bench, and this facing up is going to be the underside. I'm going to fix them all together using these pieces on the side here, and the reason I'm using 12mm or 1/2 inch plywood to raise it slightly is to create a little bit of a shoulder here. But this is, once again, mostly cosmetic. Right guys, so that's the preparation of the top, almost complete. The final piece of preparation I need to do on it is router the edges over here, once again just to tidy it up. Then the final stage of the assembly is adding the top sides and fixing it to the bench. Before I do that, however, I do want to mention that having all these visible screws on the side here is not ideal, but if I fix the bracing from the bottom, when the top is in the seated position, the screws will still be visible, and the bracing would create an obstruction for the person sitting in the chair, so I couldn't really win on that one. Now, before I add these sides, there is one small piece of preparation I need to do on them first. Right, so this is going to form the seat or backrest sides, and the hole I just drilled is going to form the pivot, allowing it to swing backwards and forwards. Now, before I fix it to the tabletop, I'm going to use the existing hole, or the hole I just drilled, to find the orientation of the corresponding hole in the seat. And I'm going to do this by placing this surface that's formed on the sharp angled side of this piece and placing it flush with the front leg. And now you can see why this cutout was important. When I've done that, I'm going to slide it up along that surface until this is at the desired height for my table, while taking into account the thickness of the tabletop, of course. Right, so when I have the piece at the desired height, I clamped it in place and I did some fine tuning with the mallet to ensure that this is indeed flat. Now I'm going to use the existing hole, or the one I drilled earlier, to guide my drill and drill the corresponding hole in the seat. The hole I'm not going to put all the way through because I don't want it visible on the outside, and once I've drilled it, I'm going to insert a piece of aluminium pipe in here to create the pivot. With the sides installed on their pivots, the final step of the assembly is installing the top. Right, so this is pretty much what the completed bench is going to look like, but at this stage you might notice that the angle of the backrest is too large, and this is where the two outstanding components I mentioned earlier comes in. I need to install something that would keep the backrest in this position, and at this stage I'm leaning towards installing a component on the inside over here that would allow the backrest to settle on it and stay like that. Right, so for the stop blocks I took one of the offcut 2x4s and I cut two of these pieces like this that are going to be installed over here like that. And it does make the assembly a little bit more complicated because now I've added a fourth angle, which is a 10-degree angle at the top here, but I'm pretty sure if the person building this could manage the other angles, this one shouldn't be a problem. It's going to be installed over here, and when the top is folded back, it will lean on this and keep the backrest in the desired position. And that's pretty much it for the bench. My original design did have rounded edges over here, but this would add additional power tool requirements, and because my objective was to keep it as simple as possible, I decided to leave that out. I don't think it's entirely necessary. So all that's left now is to build another bench like this, treat the wood and test the concept. Right, so in the end I thought it would be better to remove the sharp corners on the top sides, so I simply sawed them off and sanded them flush. In addition to this, I also installed toggle latches on the underside of the top so I can lock the two units together when in a table configuration. This is mostly for stability. I then finished off the project by treating the benches with a dark wood sealer in the hopes of concealing some of the imperfections that come with working with reclaimed wood. As you can see, I still have another coat or two to go. Now I will admit the overall design can be greatly improved by doing things like using better material than reclaimed wood or more high-end components and assembling with hidden joints or more discreet bracing. But my objective for this project was to bring it within the sphere of beginner woodworkers who may be limited on resources, so I tried to keep it as simple as possible. In that I think I succeeded, but if you guys disagree, please let me know in the comments down below. You guys can also let me know if you would like me to add plans to my plan store for this project. If so, I can have them up in a couple of days, and when I do, I'll pin the link to the comments of this video. But that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and please let me know what you think. Should I try and squeeze in more of my non-shop related projects, or should I rather stick to my usual? Remember, if you want to see any of my future projects and you aren't subscribed yet, you should do that now. But for now, as always, thank you so much for watching. Till next time. Cheers.